Despite ceasefire, which is maintaining, Indian political and military leaders' statements are quite provocative, and it can again push both Pakistan and India into again some sort of instability.
To achieve ceasefire is the only right thing to do, because for India and Pakistan, for the war to continue and even to escalate, it will be a disaster for both India and Pakistan. Whatever problems there are between these two countries, if they can solve them through peace and negotiation and diplomacy, it will be much better than going for war.
To what level in Beijing, the top Chinese military leadership, they got alerted and they were quite active and they extended support to Pakistan.
Military cooperation between China and Pakistan has always been very close and very intimate. A well-known fact that China and Pakistan jointly produce fighter planes, and in more recent years, Pakistan has imported a huge amount of Chinese hardware. Pakistan can always count on their brothers and sisters in China in fully committing themselves to defending the legitimate interests of the Pakistani people in terms of defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Pakistani Air Force is highly trained. The pilots are highly professional and very patriotic. Secondly, the planes they flew are very high quality.
What type of defense cooperation China is expected to extend to Pakistan to make its defense more stronger?
China-Pakistani military cooperation really need to aim for the future rather than looking back to the traditional way of the warfares.
Hello and welcome to Program Insight in VNews English. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear viewers, in India-Pakistan recent conflict, first on 6th and 7th of May midnight, when India carried out airstrikes inside Pakistan, hitting 3 locations, what India claimed was 26 locations. And Pakistani Air Force on the very first that Indian strike responded timely, destroyed 6 Indian fighter jets. Later on 10th of May, India again carried out missile attack inside in Pakistan, hitting different Pakistan's military bases, Air Force bases, civilian areas, with almost more than 90 different type of drones that was released and launched on different cities across Pakistan. The final red line was when India attacked Pakistan with BrahMos missiles, and then in the same midnight, Pakistani armed forces and Pakistani political leadership led by Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif decided to give a befitting response to Indian aggression. So at 5 a.m. Pakistani time, Operation Bunyan al-Marsus started, and on the same day, 5 p.m. Pakistani time, there was ceasefire. All of a sudden, there was an tweet from the American president, Mr. Donald Trump, and in which he disclosed and surprised the world that due to American intervention, Pakistan and India has agreed on ceasefire. So it was an American president tweet, but later on, India kept on saying that it did not request Americans for ceasefire. Pakistan also made it clear that Pakistan never backed this ceasefire. So since the conflict is over, ceasefire is maintaining, but we are still receiving provocative, threatening statement from Indian Prime Minister, first in Bihar, then in Rajasthan, and yesterday in Gujarat, Indian state of Gujarat. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made very, very scathing attack on Pakistan that the bullet is still ready in India, right? Particularly targeting the Pakistani youth that eat bread. And if you do not have bread, definitely I have a bullet. So in Rajasthan, he also made provocative, alarming, threatening statement saying that Operation Sindoor is continuing. Dear viewers, in this entire scenario, China was the country which stood with Pakistan, and China provided political, moral, diplomatic support, which is, of course, traditional. But in addition to this, it was Chinese defense technology which Pakistan used against Indian aggression. JF Thunder, J-10C, and particularly PL-15 Chinese-made missiles, which were part of JF Thunder 17 and J-10C. And then, in addition to this, officially information which was released that Pakistan made timely, successful cyber attacks at Indian power station, in different Indian military stations, different Indian installation, jamming their system, and ultimately achieving success. To discuss this all, we are fortunate to have with us a very senior strategic affairs, international affairs analyst, Professor Victor Gao. Professor Victor Gao as I said, he's an expert in international affairs, Pakistan, China, South Asia, Asian affairs, strategic affairs, and things like that. He teaches at one of the most prestigious Chinese university, Soochow University, which is in China. Very warm welcome to Program Insight in V News English, Professor Victor Gao.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor to talk to you on your program.
So it's a pleasure to have you with us. I will just begin with this. Since most of the things happened in past, I will quickly seek your comment. Since the ceasefire is maintaining between Pakistan and India, right? But there is, as far as Indian leadership is concerned, Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they are continuing using provocative, threatening statements against Pakistan. If it is so, Pakistani Foreign Ministry has responded timely, rejected the statement of Indian Prime Minister and Indian External Affairs Minister a couple of days before Mr. Jaishankar's statement. Similar tone was used in that. So, Professor Victor, why it is so, despite ceasefire which is maintaining, Indian political and military leaders' statements are quite provocative, and it can again push both Pakistan and India into again some sort of instability.
Thank you. I think you are raising a very important question. I think for Pakistan and India to achieve ceasefire is the only right thing to do, because for India and Pakistan, for the war to continue and even to escalate, it will be a disaster for both India and Pakistan. That's the first point. The second point, yes, indeed, the Indian leaders have kept talking tough or even bluffing about the continued war with Pakistan. I think they are mostly talking to their domestic constituencies. They want to seem to be very tough. However, how much is India really committed to escalate and to continue to fight this war against Pakistan? It's not certain. I personally don't think it will be in the fundamental interest of India to continue the confrontation and to continue the war and to continue to suffer huge losses for its planes if the air war resumes between India and Pakistan. And I think despite of all the tough talk and the bluffing, for example, I hope sincerely that the Indian side will be wise enough to calm down and eventually to wind down the situation. Because I truly believe to have peace, and even better, lasting peace between India and Pakistan, and whatever problems there are between these two countries, if they can solve them through peace and negotiation and diplomacy, it will be much better than going for war.
That's correct. As you said, that it would be nice and advisable to Indian leaders to exercise restraint, and not to make such statements. Now, going back to the time of the conflict, 6th and 7th of May, when Pakistani fighter jets gave first buffeting response and destroyed 6 Indian fighter jets, Rafale as well, and then there was MiG as well, and there was Su-30, and then there was a Mirage as well. So, and then when there was a full-fledged conflict on 10th of May, it was Chinese defense technology which made Pakistan proud, which made Pakistani nation proud. I would like to seek your comment when Chinese authorities or the Chinese government got first time this information that both countries have gone war, and up to what level in Beijing the top Chinese military leadership, they got alerted and they were quite active and they extended support to Pakistan. Yes.
Well, I would say China-Pakistani cooperation, especially in the defense area, did not start with this aerial war between Pakistan and India. They actually dates back to several decades ago. I think it is an open secret, and the rest of the world knows for sure that China and Pakistan deal with each other with full respect and support each other on many things of common interest as well as of interest to each other's fundamental issues of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the military cooperation between China and Pakistan has always been very close and very intimate, and embraces almost all aspects of our defense industries. It is a well-known fact that China and Pakistan jointly produce fighter planes, and in more recent years, Pakistan has imported a huge amount of Chinese hardware, especially fighter planes, for example, aided and assisted by the AWACS. And I think China will have no hesitation at all to provide as much support to the Pakistani side as possible in order for Pakistan to fully defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity against any foreign threat. Therefore, whatever that happened earlier this month in May is not surprising at all. It is actually a continuation of years-long and decades-long of close cooperation between China and Pakistan, and we in China treat everyone in Pakistan as our brothers and sisters, and I think it is reciprocated by the great nation of Pakistan. So don't pretend to be surprised if anyone says, well, China and Pakistan are closely cooperating in this round of military warfare conflict between India and Pakistan. No one should be surprised. Everyone should expect that this is the cornerstone of the national defense for Pakistan, and Pakistan can always count on their brothers and sisters in China in fully committing themselves to defending the legitimate interests of the Pakistani people in terms of defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
That's correct. As you said, that it could be one of the reasons China and Pakistan are closely cooperating with each other. And last year, we have celebrated 10th year of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Indian leaders have been openly criticizing this strategic cooperation, strategic partnership between Pakistan and China. And as you rightly said, that we should not be surprised from India, that this could be one of the reasons. Of course, Jammu and Kashmir is the reason, terrorism is the reason. But now I will specifically seek your comment that there was terrorism incident in Pahalgam in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan offered condolences, and Pakistan also offered India for help in investigation. But even before start of any investigation, India accused that Pakistani support was there to these terrorists who carried out. Pakistan rejected these all allegations. So merely on the basis of accusations and there was no investigation, India then made attack on Pakistan, alleging that there are terror camps in different parts of Pakistan. So I need your comments. Was it already planned, or was the India got the justification of the Pahalgam incident, or India had already made plan that it will attack Pakistan?
Well, I think as a matter of principle, we should condemn whatever terrorist attacks of all kinds against whichever group of innocent people. Therefore, for whatever terrorist attacks happening either in Pakistan or India or in Kashmir, Yeah, if they are terrorist attacks, we all need to condemn them. And I think mankind should have no reservation in condemning terrorist attacks. Now, whenever there is a terrorist attack, thorough investigation is absolutely necessary, and caution need to be applied before you exhaust the investigation. And if you have any suspicion, come up with your proof and evidence rather than jumping the gun and try to accuse another sovereign country of supporting the terrorist attack or in other innuendo, for example. Therefore, I think for the terrorist attack happening earlier this month, the only right thing is for India and Pakistan to cooperate and to get to the bottom of the situation, try to really find out who is behind such heinous terrorist attacks, for example, rather than for any country to jump to the conclusion and try to hold the other country responsible or even accusing the other side for organizing such terrorist attacks. So I think there is the right way to deal with the terrorist attack and the wrong way to deal with the terrorist attack. And I'm afraid the Indian government jumped the gun. They didn't go through investigation. They didn't exhaust all the possibilities to get to the bottom of the situation and to really identify who is the culprit for the terrorist attack. And I think the fact that they resort to military means to attack Pakistan is absolutely not justified. It's not a legitimate exercise of their military power. And therefore, I think we are all surprised. We were all surprised when military conflict broke out between India and Pakistan, when the Indian side really struck deeply into Pakistan, including bombing out civilian targets, causing many civilian deaths. Therefore, when the whole situation escalated, when everything really escalated a little bit out of control and became the aerial war between India and Pakistan, I think the fact that the Pakistani side triumphed against the Indian side is very significant. It shows several things. One is that the Pakistani Air Force is highly trained. The pilots are highly professional and very patriotic. Secondly, the planes they flew are very high quality, and the planes not only operate in their own separate capacities, they are fully and seamlessly teamed up with, for example, the AWAC, the satellite communication, and very advanced way of modern warfare. And I think in this sense, the Pakistani way of fighting aerial war is much more sophisticated than the Indian side. And this is really, without any exaggeration, truly a result of China-Pakistani cooperation. I always say we now emphasize the merging and the synthesis of several dimensions: satellite, sky, ground, and sea, and the submarines. You need to combine and merge all these 5 different dimensions into one and come up with an overarching framework of integrating data at the split of a second, and you can see the enemy further and ahead of the other side, and your missile can strike the enemy target ahead of the others, identify you, and press their button. So I think apparently all the evidence seems to indicate that the Pakistani won over the Indian side. And I think the evidence is very independently obtained. For example, the European firms confirming pilots jumped out of their cockpit when the plane was hit, etc. So I think the better way for the Indian side is to acknowledge defeat and to really come to terms with their defeat and try to be more humble and more humiliated, for example, in dealing with any kind of war, especially very advanced aerial combat against Pakistan. And the fact that they may not have fully learned the lesson is another thing. And I think they talk to their domestic constituents, try to beef up the support for their government, is to a very certain extent understandable. And I hope the Pakistani side will keep its own sanity and composure. But it is absolutely necessary to train and continue to train your military to be prepared against any other acts of aggression from the other side. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize is that I really personally very much concerned about the Indian attempt to divert water from the Indus River and deprive the people in Pakistan or the downstream of the benefit of using the water in the Indus River. This is truly very atrocious and is very much against peace and stability on the Indian subcontinent. So I call on India to really exercise greater rationality and wisdom not to use water in the Indus River as a weapon against the fundamental interests of the people in Pakistan.
That's correct. I was actually going to ask this question, but you have already responded that India should not use water as an aggression, as a weapon, and water should not be weaponized. So now, if we, as you said, that China will continue to provide military training to Air Force training, would continue to provide defense cooperation to Pakistan so that Pakistan in future, any type of, if there is any type of aggression, anytime Pakistan could combat and thwart such aggression effectively. When we, Professor Victor, when we talk of Pakistan-China cooperation, both Pakistan and China strongly believe on peace and security in the region, right? And we have seen quite tense time between China and United States, but China did not escalate. We have seen many times provocative actions near Taiwan in South China Sea, but China exercised restraint. Same thing is the policy of Pakistan. Pakistan made it clear in this war that Pakistan doesn't want escalation, but if there is an escalation, that will be met with full response. Now, question is, as you said, that in the past several decades, defense cooperation from China to Pakistan is continuing. Now, I would like to seek your comments in future. What type of defense cooperation China is expected to extend to Pakistan to make its defense more stronger? Do we see more cooperation for Pakistani Air Force? As we heard, there are latest stealth aircrafts which Pakistan is expected to receive soon, perhaps within this year. Will there be some equipment for Pakistan Army? And as you mentioned already, Pakistan Navy, will there be some more cooperation for Pakistan Navy? Professor Victor.
Well, several points. I think in order to help our Pakistani brothers and sisters to protect their legitimate interests of defending Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity, there will be no reservation on the Chinese side to provide as much help and assistance as necessary for Pakistan to achieve their legitimate goal. Secondly, when we look at the modern warfare, several things stand out. One is the increasing importance of drones of all kinds. You're talking about very large drones, smaller drones, etc. Then I think AI will become more important because AI need to be applied fully and seamlessly to all kinds of hardware and the software going forward used in warfare. And for example, when you talk about the merging of AI with drones of all kinds, and the traditional way of fighting the war, like airplanes, bombers, AWACS, and cannons of all kinds, and ground forces, tanks, personnel, vehicles, you name it, and ships, warships of all kinds, or even submarines, etc. Then you are talking about a completely different way of the future warfare, dominated by drones, driven by AI, and I think there will be completely a new way of collecting data, analyzing data, regenerating data, and storing data, transmitting data, identify the targets, and striking at the targets. So I think China-Pakistani military cooperation really need to aim for the future rather than looking back to the traditional way of the warfares. And I think we need to really apply fully whatever that we have gained about the AI and the drones, for example. In this regard, the fortunate thing is that China is the leading force in drones of all kinds, big and small, and military and non-military alike. So I hope China and Pakistan can closely cooperate And for certain types of drones and AI applications, we can do the joint production as we have been doing for the military planes.
Professor Victor, before this 6th and 7th May attack and 10th May attack, India was quite arrogant. I have an S-400 security missile system. I have Rafales and I have latest submarines and I have the missiles BrahMos. And China was considering to be the security boss of not only Asia, but specifically South Asia. So what do you think? And there was Western support, of course, no doubt, openly. And it was meant against two countries, Pakistan and China, very, very clear. So what do you think after 10th of May, right? Rafale's pride was made zero, right? S-400 air defense and missile system was destroyed. Number of military bases, airfields inside in India destroyed. Pakistan intercepted and destroyed the BrahMos missile. So what do you think? After 10th May, where India stands now, our Indian defense stands now, where is India still claiming to be the boss of security boss of Asia?
Well, a couple of points. One is that India has never achieved 100% complete national production of its national defense industry. It relies on imports from multiple countries, from the United States, from France, from many European countries, and from the former Soviet Union, today's Russia. Right? So now having weapons, hardware, and software from multiple suppliers in itself is not a problem. But how to really synthesize them together, to integrate them together into one single fighting unit, especially in times of war, a split of a second will make life or death difference. That is the problem for India. If you fly French-made fighter plane using another country's missile, for example, operated with another country's application form, etc., and if your data collection is done by another country, etc., sooner or later you will come into a glitch, for example, and then if you lose a split of a second, your planes will be struck down. That's as simple as that. Now, secondly, I think when you look at manufacturing output, China is much, much bigger than India. China's manufacturing output is larger than US, EU, and Japan combined together. So they are completely at different leagues. They are completely different in terms of the quantity, the quality, and the technological contents, etc. So I think India really need to spend a lot of resources in achieving domestic production of their national defense equipment. And in order to achieve that goal, you really need to generate more power. You need to increase the percentage of your industrial output, manufacturing output. You need to spend much more on your higher education, turn out more engineers, for example. It's not just turning on one piece of stone and you will be lucky, for example. You need to do a whole range of things, and it may take decades, for example, in order to make a complete turnaround. Meanwhile, my advice for India is always be humble. Don't be audacious. Don't think that your neighbors are below you or beneath you, because you never know. Between China and India, I think the difference cannot be even greater. And between India and Pakistan, don't underestimate Pakistan, because the hardware and the software in the possession of Pakistan is not only jointly produced by China and Pakistan, but also wholly supplied by China with the most sophisticated hardware and the software, and enabled by the most sophisticated and up-to-date AI applications. Therefore, you need to really know what you are talking about. And what happened as a result of the aerial combat between India and Pakistan should give a lesson to everyone in the world that the Chinese technology is really very supreme, and China embraces peace rather than agitating for war. So don't underestimate China's military prowess, because if you do that, it will be to your own peril. and to your own huge disadvantage. So think about China as a megatrend, to accept it as a megatrend, and don't mess around with China. Don't underestimate the might of China-Pakistani cooperation, and don't try to jump to the conclusion that China-Pakistani military cooperation will have a ceiling beyond which it will not go through. No, I personally think there will be no ceiling for China-Pakistani cooperation, and China will have no hesitation at all to fully share with our brothers and sisters in Pakistan with the most sophisticated and most developed weapons of all kinds to make sure that Pakistan will be fully equipped to defend its legitimate interest of defending sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Professor Victor, what a comprehensive answer to this. I would like to seek your further comment that India is not ready to talk on Jammu and Kashmir, which is a flashpoint and which is a disputed territory declared under United Nations Security Council resolution. On 5th of August 2019, India claimed that special status for Jammu and Kashmir was revoked, and now India claimed that it is part of Indian territory, which it cannot be because there are still resolutions of United Nations Security Council. So the unresolved issue of Jammu and Kashmir, I need your comments that how it could be resolved. India is not ready to sit with Pakistan on negotiation. India says India is ready to talk on terrorism, but not Kashmir. Professor Victor.
Well, Kashmir is a disputed territory. There is no doubt about it. No country should have any legitimacy in claiming that it owns the totality of Kashmir because it is a disputed territory. Now, the only way to solve the status of Kashmir is for India and Pakistan to sit down at the negotiation table and talk about peace, how to resolve their disputes about the Kashmir issue. So I think it takes time, of course. Meantime, the line of actual control does exist between the Indian-controlled side of Kashmir and the Pakistani-controlled side of Kashmir. And I think this status quo will probably continue into the coming years and even decades. So the world should not go into complacency that the Kashmir issue has been solved once India comes up with its unilateral declaration of classifying Kashmir as one of its own state. No, it will not be resolved.
A very quick question on that. As you said that India and Pakistan need to sit together. In addition to this fight which was between India and Pakistan, fighter jets, cyber security, and so many things, it was war of narrative as well. India tried to sell wrong narrative before the world that Pakistan is terrorist country, and that narrative got failed. That many of the Western top media houses did not buy that Indian narrative. Indian television channels and media houses and social media kept on propagating that terrorism comes from Pakistan. So other than war, there was a defeat to India on narrative fronts. So I read your comment. India tried to mislead the world. Professor Victor.
Well, it is obvious that India is very eager to talk to as many countries in the world about their version of what happened and their version of truth. Now, I think as a sovereign country, they have the right to do that. How many people, how many countries they can convince, that's another story. Now, for Pakistan, I think Pakistan need to do similar things. You need to talk to as many countries in the world about your version of the truth, so that different countries will have two versions of the presentations and try to really come up with their own conclusion. I think the fact that India has sent the delegations to many countries, including to Arab countries, other Muslim countries, the 5 permanent member states of the United Nations Security Council, Security Council is also meaningful. I think my advice to the Pakistani government is also talk to the Arab countries, the Muslim countries, to the Arab League, the Muslim League, for example, as well as other major countries in the world, countries in the Deep South, in the Global South, for example, because otherwise you may actually see the Indian version of what had happened may be perceived as more likely to be true than not. So I think in terms of the paradigms and the narratives, both India and Pakistan want to project their version of what they consider as what happened. And I think many countries in the world know what really happened. And they know that the Pakistani side has won that aerial confrontation against India. Many Indian planes, including very sophisticated European-made planes, were shot down. And it is futile to hide the truth from the world.
Lastly, I would seek your comment that Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Chinese foreign minister met last week in Beijing. In addition to Pakistan-China bilateral consultation, the meeting between Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, and Chinese Foreign Minister, that was bilateral. But I would like to seek your comment that it was first time that three countries sat together, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and China. The biggest challenge other than India is the terrorism that emanates from Afghanistan. So what do you think that now Afghanistan is convinced by both China and Pakistan that there will be no more use of its territory against any of the countries as far as terrorism is concerned? Has Afghanistan gave assurances to both Pakistan and China? Because if there is a peace, there will be more connectivity, CPAC connectivity, and we have also heard a train link between Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan. China has agreed to fund that. So that is only possible when there is peace. Professor Victor.
Well, I think to achieve a lasting peace and stability for Pakistan and in between Pakistan and its 6 neighboring countries and for the Central Asian as a whole is absolutely one of the most important things in the world of today. Afghanistan should not be a hotbed for terrorism and radicalization. It has caused so much problem for neighboring countries, including both Pakistan and China, because China's Xinjiang Autonomous Region borders with Afghanistan. So I think both China and Pakistan should work together to convince their counterparts in Afghanistan that to achieve peace and stability for the long term for Afghanistan is absolutely in the fundamental interest of the Afghan people as well as all the neighboring countries. And it is time to make sure that in that part of the world, peace and stability will prevail. And people in all these countries who are dedicated to development, and development is the hard truth, and development is the only way to bring people in Afghanistan out of poverty and onto modernization and urbanization and industrialization. And we need to convince the Afghan government that their future will be better than their today if they can maintain peace and stability and normalize their relations with all the neighboring countries and with the rest of the world. Say final goodbye to whatever radicalization and terrorism that exists inside of Pakistan, and always look into the future of peace and stability and harmony and development and prosperity for the great nation of Afghanistan.
Professor Victor, thank you so much. And the conclusion is that development connectivity is the only solution to alleviate poverty, to maintain and establish peace and security. And the most important thing that we got, that the Chinese and Pakistani defense system, which was jointly produced, should not be underestimated. And in this war, the message is to the entire world that the Chinese defense technology is superior, and that has been tested in the war. And India should not underestimate Pakistan's defense capability, which is in joint collaboration with China. Long live Pakistan-China friendship. Thank you so much, despite your very, very busy schedule and rescheduling of this conversation today twice. You spared time and participated in our show. We wish you best of luck and hope to see you again, dear viewers, till our next program. Goodbye.